The one question I always get asked year after year when it comes down to Wing Chun is who has the best lineage? Where should I go train? What do you think of this person? What do you think of that person? And although I think that every single Wing Chun lineage has some validity to it, William Chung, I just don't. I think that there's one person in my personal and professional Wing Chun history and opinion and training and experience and expertise, and that's Grandmaster Sam Quach. And I'll get to that in a minute in my justification of why I think so. But when it comes down to understanding Wing Chun, I think what we have to realize is we have to define what Wing Chun is. And what Wing Chun is close quarter combat. That's all it is. Over the years, I think that Wing Chun has become Chi Sao, and I think that's what it is, and that's why it's got such a horrible reputation with so many other martial arts out there, and it's a classroom art that's really not combatively trained, unlike things like wrestling, which I have a very extensive background in, and BJJ, which I have no background in, and even boxing, which I have a minute background in. All three of those, you can take wrestling and turn it into a combative art of fighting, right? So you could do the same thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you could do the same thing with boxing. What I mean by that is if I use wrestling in a tournament, I'm going for a takedown, right? 2-point takedown. I'm going for a near fall. I'm going for a pin. Well, if I use it in the street, I'm not going for a takedown. I'm looking for a double leg, and I'm going to look to bash somebody's head into the concrete and end the fight as quickly as possible. Those same things can translate from boxing and BJJ. When it comes down to Wing Chun, I think that the paramount problem that 99% of the problem that Wing Chun people have is they can't translate how does our art turn into combative fighting when it essentially is, right? That's all it is, well, we got the fox out of the middle of the face, the fox out of the throat, all this. It's pure theory because nobody winds up training it for anything other than outside of Chi Sao. And I know I'm saying nobody and I'm saying generalizations, but that's the way that it goes. So when it comes down to certain arts, certain lineages, I think that the Wang Sheng Liang lineage is superior for footwork, for structure, for, absolute power delivery. I really do. And I've had experience in that. I think that if anybody wants to learn pure aggression and ferocity of Wing Chun, I think you have to find somebody who trained directly under Keith Kernspet. I think that Keith Kernspet took what Long Ting taught him, and he took it to a whole nother level, and he produced people like Eamon Bostepi, Norbert Mayday, Victor Gutierrez, and I know I'm forgetting a lot, some pure savages, right? When it comes down to, I guess my lineage, when I come from under Syed, we're split, right? Because I've had the experience with both Syed and Phil Nearing. So I have a lot of Steve Lee Swifts and a lot of Sam Quach stuff. So I see so many people out there who represent really good Wing Chun, and it's a matter of flavor for what you're going to want to look into. The reason why Sam Quach, in my opinion, is the current GOAT of Wing Chun is because of the path that he has taken, the exposure he's had with several people along the way, his personal ability, his athleticism, his size. He's got too many contributing factors out there to keep him limited. And I'm going to talk about what I think makes Sam Quach the GOAT of modern Wing Chun. All right, first things first, what makes me qualified to talk about Sam Quach? I've had limited exposure to him. So if you do not know my history in Wing Chun, I've had 3 Sifus. I had Danny Halligan, who Danny Halligan was under Ron Heimberger at the time before Ron Heimberger passed away. And then he went under Eric Lee. Okay. When I left Danny Halligan after about 4 years, we went to Phil Nearing. Phil Nearing started his Wing Chun under Steve Lee Swift, and then later Sam Quach. So I'm going to talk about some private conversations that I had with Phil about Sam that I knew firsthand going in. And then when I got with Syed, after spending about 4 years with Phil, I got exposed really deep into Steve Lee Swift's combatives. So I have a great, just diverse portfolio for Wing Chun. Along the way, I've met with people who have trained with Lung Ting, the guys over from the Indianapolis Wing Chun and Naptown Wing Chun. Sean started in Lung Ting's lineage. Then him and Casey, they went under Gary Lamb. So I've had that exposure to their skill set. I met with somebody years ago who was very well trained under Wang Sheng Lung's lineage and had some exposure to under Sifu Dave Meadows. So I've had a lot of great exposure to a lot of Wing Chun, and you do what you're supposed to do, right? You take what's useful, you apply it, you make it what's yours, you throw out what's not needed. It's as simple as that. So my background, as you can see, that's me. And that's Sam Quach grabbing me by the throat. And if you can't tell, and this was a demo, Sam Quach was squeezing he's got a grip around my throat. And yeah, I was choking and I couldn't breathe in that picture. This was a seminar from 2009. Now, I don't care. I'm not beholden to anybody about keeping stories or secrets or this and that. Well, so if I'm going to talk about somebody's passion, credibility, their history, then I'm gonna talk out of school, right? I'm gonna spill the beans. This was a seminar that got set up after I bridged the gap between Phil Nearing, my Sifu at the time, and Sam Quach. And they had not spoken. The story, this was 2009, and they had not spoken for years prior to this. Phil had a very, very, very big affection, appreciation, and massive respect for Sam Quach, but they had a personal issue they were not talking about. Phil never talked about his Steve Lee Swift days by the time I got to Phil. I got to Phil in end of 07, right around 06, 07, somewhere around there, and then the seminar happened in 09. Phil's mother passed away, so I sent Sifu Kwok an email saying, hey, I'm one of Phil Nearing's students, and it might mean something to you if you actually bridge the gap, and actually, I just want to let you know that Phil's mother passed away, and it would mean a lot to him if he heard from you. And they did, and they started talking. During my time with Phil, I did private lessons with him 2 to 3 days a week. Private lessons always consisted of 30 to 40 to 60 minutes of Phil just talking. And I used to hate it, but to be honest, if you actually listened, you actually learned a lot. Phil always talked about 2 people. Well, 3 people. One was one of his ex-students who he was upset with. And then the other 2 ones were Carlson Gracie and Sam Quach. He talked about them all the time. He had an extreme respect and love and brotherhood for both of these men. He always talks, and he said all the time that Sam Quach was his Sifu, but Carlson Gracie was his teacher. And if you were trained under Phil during the time that I did back in 06, 07, 08, 09, all those years, his Chi Sao game changed, and you saw a lot different Chi Sao. And I'll show a clip in a second of how Phil changed the game at his distance. Phil did a lot of, it was very, very far away in how he Chi Sao'd, because what he believed was that if you were in a position of safety or defense, you could then attack. That's what he got from Carlson Gracie and learning the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is about defense. And he fell in love with that. And he tried to apply it to Chi Sao, which works if you have distance and you're taller. The problem is it doesn't work if you're a smaller person trying to overcome a larger attacker. Sam Quach showed me that, and it was probably one of the most brilliant moments of my career that still today I remember, and it's a life lesson that has taught me a lot of other things. When it came down to Chi Sao, that's a lot of what we learned in Phil's class, and it was a massive level of energy. Make no mistake about it. Phil's skill set back when I trained with him, he was fucking deadly. He was incredible. His energetics were spot on. He used to have mini tremors in his Chi Sao game. And when you touched him, a lot of people say when they touch their Sifu, it's like touching a ghost. Now, when you touch Phil's hands, at least back then, it was like you were instantly scared, because not only was he a tall man, I mean, Phil's 6'2", maybe. I was 5'7", and when we touched hands, he had the reach, he had the experience. If you know Phil's mindset, Phil's a fighter from Chicago. He's a very aggressive man, and he can fight. There's no damn question about it. But when he taught Chi Sao, it was a completely different animal. The thing about Phil, and I know this is about Sam, but I want to lay the groundwork for why Phil has a brilliancy to him, is Phil is classically trained in music as well, too. So the way that Phil saw Chi Sao was very like a symphony. It was really beautiful. It really was. When Phil taught, he taught less aggression and more, just like your Chi Sao under Phil was absolutely like the notes from a Mozart score, a Beethoven score. Ironically enough, Beethoven was hanging a poster of him in his gym. Phil was very, very, very good about taking the energetics from what he learned from Sam Quach and applying it in our Chi Sao. And he melded that with Carlson Gracie, and he made Chi Sao a brilliant, beautiful game. I didn't know about the Steve Lee Swift years. So coming from Danny Halligan, when I went to Phil, I was like, this is Chi Sao. This is amazing. Oh my God, I've been searching for this. This is energetic. But I wasn't getting the killing side of Wing Chun. I was getting some real damn good Chi Sao. And when I touched hands with other people, there was no question at all. It wasn't until a seminar with Sam Quach that my life changed in Wing Chun for the better and for the worse. And everything changed for me as far as where my Wing Chun would go. This was the Chi Sao under Phil, and you could see in these videos that you could see how far away they are when they start Chi Saoing. And this is Phil and Mike Zima going through the motions. I mean, even just an initial rolling, you can see, I mean, that's extended. That's not really close for Wing Chun. And if you watch this, I can see this in the video. If you watch Phil, when he goes in and makes his attack, you can watch the mini tremors in his arms. He's just, once he touches, it's a mini tremor, and you can see it in that bong that's collapsed into a fox sao that he doesn't extend. He's sparing the health and safety of Zima by not just going on a fulling attack, even though if Phil wanted to, he could just make him a puddle on the floor. It is just, I'll give him credit. Phil's skill for Chi Sao was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. But if you watch these guys here, it's a very extended game of being in a position of safety first, then attack. And it doesn't work if you're a short guy. If you watch Sharon versus somebody tall, it's too far away. We can't do that in Wing Chun. You can't be too far away. You're going to get rocked every single time. So this was just an issue I had when it came down to the shorter person, and what Phil taught was energetics. It deviated away from what he had learned under Steve Lee Swift and what I do believe he learned under Sam Quach. I think he fell in love with the energetics for what he learned under Sam Quach, and then he fell in love with the defensive aspects that he learned under Carlson Gracie with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he went a different path. It wasn't pure Wing Chun. It was more along the lines of theory and the science behind a fighting skill that was used for an exercise that we call Chi Sao. So this photo, this is right before everything changed for me in Wing Chun. Now, if you can see this, and I've talked about this before on videos and whatnot, anybody who does Chi Sao now and has any training in Wing Chun, you notice something. You notice how far, if you look right here at my elbow, my left elbow, which is my Fuch Sao position, it violates the concept of being a fist and a half length away from your body. Look how far extended I am. And we used to have a thing down here. It's called palm on. Our Tan on a bottom position, we would have palm on for pressing into somebody. But Sam used me as the dummy, right? The demo person for this seminar. One of the biggest compliments I got was afterwards that Sam had told Phil that my Wing Chun was good. And I was walking on cloud nine for weeks after hearing about this. But in this photo, Sam is watching a little bit of free Chi Sao between Dan and myself. We all broke for lunch, and Dan and I were Chi Saoing. And before Sam walked out, he came over to both of us and he looked at our position. Sam never undermined anything Phil taught us, meaning that now this was the first U.S. seminar for Phil's students that he had had in years. So all of what Phil had produced in us, and I already been under Phil for years at this point, Sam didn't come in and go, oh, no. He didn't try to clean up any mistakes that he saw. He was extremely respectful of what Phil taught. Another reason why Sam Quach, I don't care who says what about him, this is my experience, he was extremely fair. He was not egocentric. Didn't come in and ruffle his feathers and say, I'm the cat's ass and I know what I'm talking about. You're all inferior. Never made anybody feel less than in his seminar. During the lunch break, everybody's gone. Dan and myself were chi saoing. This is after this picture, or after it was taken. Sam came up and he watches us chi sao and he made 2 adjustments. He flat out said, you're too far extended. You're violating the concept of being a fist and a half length away. When I came in, I said, Sifu, this is too close for me. I'm going to get hit every time. You can see how much taller Dan is than me in this photo. I said, he's going to hit me every time. Dan's a senior student to me. He's better than me. You know, this is ridiculous. He had us do 1 adjustment that Dan and I went, oh my God. He simply had us sit back as if we were in our stance, not in the Yiji Kim Young Ma stance, right? He didn't have us pigeon-toed, clamp the knees. He had us relax, turn shoulders off, and he had us sink our chin in, down, and towards our chest. That was it. So my head movement went to this, maybe a half inch in. Everything. I can't describe this. This is almost the concept of invisible Wing Chun. The stuff that you can't teach somebody, you can only learn it by experience. Even though he taught a minute adjustment in my core, it was like the scene from Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when Flash is in the hallway and he throws that punch and Tobey Maguire goes, and he sees the punch coming in slow motion. Both Dan and I went, holy shit, what just happened? Because when we started seeing and doing attacks that we had done forever, all of a sudden you could pick them up so far easier. It was like, oh my God, I see where your attack is coming in. I can utilize my tan, my pak, my bog. It was so incredible. That skill, call it alignment, I don't know what you want to call it, to this day, I apply that skill towards so many other things. Riding a motorcycle, I cannot tell you how every time I would ride a motorcycle, I have 2 bikes. One is a smaller bike, one's a bigger bike. All I have to do, and they're different positions, handlebars, forward controls. If I'm on one bike versus another, all I have to do is tuck my chin back down a little bit, and I can see the road so much more coming at me. It's just more proof how Wing Chun is life and has so many life lessons. It's insane. I adopted that same concept of relaxing and almost sinking back into my core, and my pistol skills improved on the range. So this whatever Sam knew just blew me away. And that was probably the single greatest lesson I ever got from him that I never got a chance to thank him for. I've never spoken to him since this day, but this was a great seminar. It was fantastic. I got to spend time with him. It was a 9-hour seminar. He was just a fantastic guy. And from my experience with him too, when you touched hands with Sam Quach and you went to chi sao him, yeah, Phil had the chaotic energy where it was like, it was mini tremoring and you never know when the earthquake was going to blow. Sam, 6 feet tall, athletic, unbelievably fast, but fast just doesn't win fights. When you go and you touch hands with him and you go you lock up for chi sao, iron, it's like he's got metal rods in his radius and his ulna. I can't describe this. You know you're not going to win. You know that it's a game, you're playing chi sao, but he immediately, what I liked about my exposure to Sam Quach was with chi saoing him, he said, you're dead, because I was waiting. So it was in this scene where we were chi saoing, he kind of made an ass of me where we were chi saoing to demonstrate in front of everybody else. And I paused because I was waiting for an incoming attack, because under Phil, it was always be in a position of defense before you attack. And that was the only correction he made, but he didn't say that Phil taught you wrong. He had said, you're waiting, you're dead. And he fired 3, 4, 10 shots right in at me. So what I got from Sam in that seminar, the one meeting, was this man is about offense. This man, absolutely, when he puts hands on you, you're at the mercy of what he chooses to do. His fan sao, or fan da, whatever you want to call it, continuation of strike, was just indefensible. It was friggin' fantastic. It was just incredible. And he taught you go, go, go. You know, if you wait, you're dead. Wing Chun, you don't give anybody a second chance. Do not give anyone a second chance. So during the seminar, it changed me. And if you know my story with Phil, I went back to class a couple days later, and all of a sudden my Chi Sao game just massively improved because I was obsessed. I was like, oh my God, I got these energetics from Phil. They're great, one hard, one soft. You've got the Chi Sao game and all this stuff. And then Sam just taught us, boom, when that light goes from red, yellow, green, you just gun it and go. And I was actually massively improved in class. And that was the beginning of our falling out with myself and Phil, because I think he felt undermined by Sam. It is what it was. One of the things that I will say too, when it comes down to Sam, his techniques, they're so crisp and they're amazing. I mean, if the guy poxows you, you feel like he's going to wind up just ripping the skin and all the muscle tissue out of your forearm when he winds up doing it. So firsthand experience. I did train very briefly with Sam Quach in a seminar. I was his dummy for the class. I had a few private moments with him where he corrected my Chi Sao. What I got out of him was, don't wait. I got, without him saying so, that's where my Wing Chun took the turn, and I learned Wing Chun is offense. It is not defense. It is offense. And I did not throw out what I knew from Phil, but I started to go, now, if a 6'1", 6'2" man can make this work for him and I can't, what do I take from Sam Quach and make it apply to my Wing Chun? So I've had 3 Sifus. I really have. I'm partial. Syed just, he's my guy. He always will be. He taught me more about my Wing Chun and the ability to do it, but I would not have gotten to find the gap between what I had from Phil or Syed. I never would have met Syed if it wasn't for Sam Quach. So inadvertently, Sam Quach teaching me, opening up my mind, getting me kicked out of Phil's school, sent me to Syed, and that just really developed my Wing Chun to where it is today. And it's fast, deadly, effective, devastating, and fucking awesome. Why Sam Quach is the go-to Wing Chun too is he keeps the principles and the foundation and the delivery, the concepts of Wing Chun pure. He keeps them, it's very simple. His movements are very athletic. He is a fighter. He's aggressive, and everything he does is clean. A lot of what he does is for demos. Great. I mean, it is what it is. It's his profession, teaching. His stuff was always clean, and you could see in there, oh, I guess this is where it could work. At least that's what I saw. Because a lot of people cannot see where Wing Chun could work. I always thought, my personal opinion, that when it came down to Sam Quach, it's like, man, no, you could see where he's doing it. Sure, there's part of it where it's a demo, but man, I don't know how to describe it again too. He had the ability for you to go, dude, no, light bulb. Oh my God, light bulb just went off. I think I know how I can make this work. I do remember hearing during one of the breaks at the seminar. I remember this, and this is how awesome Sam Quach is, and how he never stops learning in Wing Chun. So if he'd been doing Wing Chun at this point for 30 years in 2009, during the seminar, he's talking to Phil, and they're talking about what they're going to train, and I'm just a couple feet away from him because I'm the dummy, and Sam starts talking about the bong sao. And I do not remember exactly what he had said, but he told Phil, he goes, I was training bong sao the other day in the forum, and it just dawned on me, bong sao. And he talked about a new thing that just appeared to him in the training. And he goes, I never saw bong sao as that way before. And I've said that too. It's like you could do the 108 movements of Sealam Dao every day for 30 years, and there's going to be one part of that form somewhere. I don't know where, but one part of that form that's just going to reveal itself to you and you're going to go, holy cow, I've been doing this for decades and I didn't see this. So just the fact that Sam admitted that and said that made me realize that, yeah, he's a phenomenal teacher, but he's always a student. He's always thirsty for Wing Chun. He always wants to know more about Wing Chun, even though Wing Chun is simple. He's always trying to make it as simple as possible to come back to fast, deadly, devastating, destructive, you name it, and effective. He wants pure Wing Chun. And I think, in my opinion, again, when you go through it, his ability for what he's able to express in his Wing Chun, he can. He does express pure Wing Chun. Some of the other concepts is that the man has had exposures to two of Ip Man's sons, Ip Ching and Ip Chun. He has studied, trained, learned, and been around both of them. Sam Quach has the luxury of speaking English and Cantonese. I believe it's Cantonese. I do not think it's Mandarin. And he trained with them, both of them. And if you know anything about both brothers, they're extremely different. If you ever looked at the footwork between Ip Ching and Ip Chun, is different. Ip Chun does this compass stepping where he does a lot of stepping around, and Ip Ching does a lot of shifting and a lot of circle stepping in towards a target. So both of the brothers even have differences from what their father taught them. And Sam Quach, he had experience with both of them. You can't deny. I mean, what would it be like to be able to speak the language and talk to both brothers who came from the source of the Ip Man lineage, right? The man who taught so many people and both of his sons, and then you have access to both of them. How can it be any contest whatsoever from somebody who gets to learn from both brothers? So I think hands down, one of the biggest factors that makes Sam Quach the modern GOAT of Wing Chun is the fact that he had direct, regular, extensive, exclusive training with both Ip Ching and Ip Chun. And if you're Sam Quach and you're a perpetual student, you're constantly consuming, processing, digesting, cultivating, and making Wing Chun yours. Hands down, it's one of the best experiences on the planet, and every one of us should be jealous for it. Sam Quach is also trained, and he knows some of the best. I mean, for the love of God, he knows Cynthia Rothrock, Chuck Norris. How many martial artists does he actually rub elbows with, where it's a constant exchange of ideas, and when you're at his level, humility. I'm telling you flat out, Sam, and from what I've experienced, he may have an ego. I've never seen it because he knows his ability. But I mean, Dan Inosanto, this is showing Dan Inosanto Wing Chun and how the effect is, and then taking a man who is probably cross-trained with more people than anybody on the planet. Again, Sam's exposure to other people is absolutely insane. One of the things that you have to remember when you train with other people from different martial arts is it forces you to figure out how your Wing Chun can work, because it's not just a Wing Chun person versus a Wing Chun person. So again, the opportunities that Sam has had to face so many other people and so many other arts makes him, or puts him in a position to constantly think, how does Wing Chun work in true application? I mean, come on. Carlson Gracie, if Carlson Gracie got the respect of Wing Chun from Sam Quach and brought it to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, for the love of God, you're going to tell me that Sam Quach did not pioneer, and nobody has really picked it up since then, the opportunity to show BJJ people the beauty and brilliance of Wing Chun. So again, you have Sam Quach, who was humble enough to work with people in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time. I mean, that was just the exploding martial art that was out there. And here's in this video, Carlson Gracie, through this translator, was actually commenting or complimenting Sam Quach and Phil Nearing on their skill set through their art. So how many people today, they're just not willing to go and cross-train with other schools and whatnot, but here you had Sam Quach doing a seminar with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Carlson Gracie, for the love of God. So again, it shows a willingness, it shows a mindset, and you're going to tell me that during that seminar, when they trained together, that Sam wasn't thinking to himself, oh, this is how I could do this. This is how I can apply this. This is how I can beat them. This is how I could do this. He purposely put himself in a position to non-stop improve his Wing Chun. Who does that now? Who does it? How many people are out there are just satisfied with their thing and go whatever? They truly don't cross train. It's as simple as that. Sam Quach, he was doing it while all the rest of us were talking about it. I mean, and let's not talk about the people that he produced, right? And yeah, I'm kind of impartial about him. You got Phil Nearing. I'm not a fan of Tony Massengill as a human being, to be honest, and I've made that very clear. I think he's a piece of shit. It's Paul Smith. He had Paul Smith, who was a killer. Paul Smith was one of the first people who translated bodybuilding and strength training into Wing Chun and made it work. Sadly, I think Paul Smith died a few years ago, but he was another friggin' killer that came under Sam Quach. Sam's ability to give these students to pass on his knowledge and still let them make it their own was fantastic. This video, I watched this a million times. You know, this was my second Sifu Phil Nearing, and when you watch the Chi Sao that Sam did, he would do you demo it first, and then he would do it very, slowly show everybody the skills he's going to do. He's just fantastic is the only thing I can really describe it when it comes down to Sam's skill set. Yes, it's Chi Sao, but again, too, having firsthand trained, and I think a lot of people, thousands of people across the world can tell you now, after being in a Sam Quach seminar or training with him privately or as a student, that his ability from Chi Sao translates into the fighting world. So ultimately, what am I saying when it comes down to why is Sam Quach the GOAT of modern day Wing Chun? It's because of what he brings to the table and what he's constantly seeking from the table. I think that simply by who he's been exposed to from learning, who he's been exposed to in delivering, he's had thousands upon thousands of classes, students, seminars, and how many different people is he going to teach to a different learning set, right? I'm 5'7", I'm built, I go for muscle, strength. He's got to teach me one way that he's going to teach a girl who's 5'2", 110 pounds, and is not as strong as I am, or a guy who's 6'2" and is, 200 plus pounds and doesn't know, or their body uses differently. I also think that Sam's dedication, Sam is not somebody who cross-trained and said, "Oh, I'm incorporating BJJ." I think what he did is he went and he touched hands with so many people out there, movie star martial artists, professional martial artists, amateur martial artists, fighters, boxers, and I think at the core of never breaking, maintaining that confidence of Wing Chun, gave him the ability to constantly translate more pure, real Wing Chun. So if it comes down to his character, I think that Sam Quach is a teacher. If you've ever been around him, he's soft, he's methodical, he's quiet. His hands do the talking. He doesn't need to be loud and explosive and boisterous like me. He's extremely lethal in the way that he teaches. And you listen, you observe, and it's impossible not to learn from him. The difference in the students is he had. If you look at Massengill, if you look at Nearing, if you look at Paul Smith, they're all different. They're all different. And they're all good at what they do, and they all brought a great game to the table. So again, it's not only what Sam was able to wind up doing for himself, but what he was able to produce. And then down the road and down the line. And then it's the bridging the gap. What does Sam do? What does he teach without even saying a word? When you touch hands with him, when you feel that energy, when you're like, it's an experience that if you've never trained in Wing Chun, it's unlike most other people. You touch hands with Phil Nearing, it's a great experience. You're like, dude, I'm about to get my world rocked. Something's going on here. You touch hands with Sam Quach, and you're instantly like, I need to know this. I need to know this. You're not intimidated, but what you are is massively thirsty for more Wing Chun knowledge, because it's almost like he's got this source radiating from him. This is my opinion. I think due to the longevity, the definite time, the hours, the self-reflection, the self-study, the continual learning, the application, year after year after year after year, and the ability, I truly believe, in my opinion, that Sam Quach is the modern day GOAT of Wing Chun. And if you're going to ask me flat out who to train with, I'm not going to tell you go find one of his students. I'm really not. I'm going to tell you that if you can afford it, if you have the opportunity, you need to go directly. And if he's willing, you need to go directly to Sam Quach and learn. I think that it is a once of a lifetime opportunity. And if I were you and you're learning Wing Chun, I would watch every piece of content that Sam Quach has out there, start digesting it, and look at all the nuances of how he moves, how he looks, how he stands, how he punches, how he steps, everything in his ability lives a Wing Chun that is, its time just never was taken advantage of, because again, we've become a Chi Sao culture, we've become a theory culture, and then it's that. And the one thing that Sam has never done, to my knowledge, is he's never condemned it. You know, he's been very respectful of all of us out there who teach, but I honestly think that if Sam Quach ever did step up and say, a lot of you guys have garbage Wing Chun, and he'll, in my opinion, he doesn't criticize people that I've ever heard. Things would change. Things would change. I think true people who are looking for Wing Chun fighting, close quarter combat, ruthless skills, they need to look at Sam Quach. That's just my opinion, and I think that's why Sam Quach is the GOAT of our current day Wing Chun. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I look forward to reading your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.